Good morning. Welcome back to the Gilbertson Aero Factory. Today is Saturday, the 21st of December, 2024. I did say morning, which is an unusual occurrence lately for me to get out here and start working before like 3:30 to 5:30 in the afternoon. So I'm excited about that. If you watch yesterday's video, then you kind of know where I'm at right now. We won't recap that. We'll just talk about what's going to happen today. I'm getting really close to permanently affixing parts and closing up these flaps. I just have a little more match drilling to do, and then we'll start riveting one part onto the spar, then we'll move into parts prep. The most important thing I think for me to pay attention to right now is the order of operations. There's a tricky little sandwich of material that goes on around the front of the forward spar on the inboard end and between two adjoining brackets, the spar, the rib, and a large nut plate that goes in there. So, and I think it gets tricky after that too, once you start riveting the skins on. So we'll see. Anyways, let's build an airplane. So to start the day, we're really about all this business right here. This is the two views of the bracket that we fabricated. This is what mounts on the front side of the spar right here and attaches to this one that runs along the rib. We owe these holes right here. We need to create these holes and then match drill them to the front of the spar and rivet this to the spar. That's the first thing. We also owe all of these holes right here. These holes are in the piece. They need to be match drilled to that rib. And then we need to get into this nut plate right here. One side of the nut plate is affixed directly to the web of the rib, and the other one goes through that thick aluminum bracket, then through the rib to the nut plate. Anyways, yeah, we'll show you when we get there, but that's what we're working on today.
So I did get into the workshop earlier today, but that didn't mean that I got a lot more time. Today's work session was a total of just over an hour and a half, 1.6. So yeah, it's all about getting this match drilling. We've got these two angle brackets that we have fabricated, or mostly fabricated. We still owe a lot of... we need to add 5 holes to these. These are the holes that will mount this to the web of the spar. So they're laid out pretty neatly on the plans as I showed you earlier. That first row, the row of 3, they're 5/16 from the edge. The corner ones are 5/16 from both the vertical and lateral edges, and then I thought, well, maybe I'll try the rivet, get the first 2 lined up and try the rivet fan. And I thought, oh, man, the lines are just easier. Quick Amazon package. What that is about, it's not really related to the airplane. My compressor sits back there in the corner and I've got it plumbed up through the roof, and I mostly just ignore it, especially because it's a really quiet California Air Tools compressor. And because I ignore it, I don't pay much attention to draining any water that collects in the tank, which is bad, especially in a humid environment like where I am located. So the other day when I was fussing around with it, I decided to look and found out that there is such thing as an automatic drain valve. So I got the automatic valve maybe 2 days ago, but I realized I need some more 1/4-inch tubing to get it set up the way that I want. Anyways, that's what that was. So that will do a better job of maintaining my air compressor than I have. 2 brackets. You know what? You see me getting the measurement dialed in on the micrometer and then just lightly scoring it so I have a line that I can draw. I have never done that before. I think I saw Tim doing that in one of his videos like 2 weeks ago, and I thought, man, how have I never thought of this. I'm 570 hours into this thing. If I knew how to do that, I would only be at like 568 and a quarter. Yeah. Anyways, let's see. Yep, just drilling, punching 5 holes through both of these things. This is pretty simple and definitely not rocket surgery. I do try to be accurate with these holes, but they are not perfect, but good enough for government work, because these are not matching up to anything that's already drilled. They're basically laid out in a pattern just to distribute the load neatly across that piece. And so if I'm off by, a few thousandths, well, that's not gonna matter. Yep. So I got these all. I had this little clip right here. I had originally sped up by a factor of 10, which is actually slow compared to a lot of what I do in these videos. That seemed way too fast, so I slowed it down to factor of 500%, and this seems too slow. So, anywho, let's talk about today's work session. Successful. Lots of match drilling. I think yesterday I said that these two brackets come together and they form a, because of the 6.3 degree bend, they don't form a 90. They form, I think I said, an 83.7 degree. But no, that's not actually. It is an obtuse angle. So it is a 96.3 degree bend between where the spar works its way around to the inboard rib. Yeah, so that is just a small correction that probably is insignificant, since what ultimately matters is not what I say the numbers are, but what the thing actually fits like. Yeah, so lots of match drilling. We're going to get into that here in a moment. Again, this turned out to be mostly simple. Now, I wanted to finish all of the match drilling today, but I had, the reason my work session was 1.6 hours and not 3 point whatever is because I had to, even though I got an early start, there was some place that I had to be in the afternoon, so I had to ditch. And I'm just very close to having all of the parts ready for final parts prep and riveting. The only thing left to do on both of these flaps after this session is to get basically get the holes in those inboard ribs and one of those brackets set up for the big fat nut plate that will hold the bolt that attaches the rod end bearing. And the reason I didn't do that, it's something that probably could be done in 10 or 15 minutes, but if I feel rushed, I'm almost guaranteed to do something dumb. And I just decided I'll save that bit of work for when I'm fresh and I have more time and can puzzle over it a little bit more. It's not super intuitive. You do have the hole for the rod end bearing that first you just use it as a guide. In the beginning, it's pre-drilled between the bracket piece and the rib. There is a number 30 hole there, and that helps you line up the rest of the match drilling that we're going to get into here in a little bit. Match drilling that piece of that particular bracket to the web of that. What do we call those things? Ribs, right? And then afterwards, that's a long explanation to say that once those holes are all match drilled and everything is nice and snug, then that hole needs to be upsized to 1/4 inch for the nut plate that's going to be on the inside of that rib. Ribs sound delicious right now. And yeah, so I didn't want to kind of be in a hurry as I tried to lay out where the holes for the mounting the nut plate were going to be. One end of the nut plate is only attached to the web of that rib, and that needs to be dimpled, and that nut plate needs to be dimpled as well because it's an AN426 rivet. And what I found, I came out earlier this morning just to make sure that I had that I wasn't going to make you guys go through the torture of watching me look for nut plates, because I've done that to you enough. Anyways, I found them very quickly. And these are big ones, and so there's no problem dimpling those rivet holes with a DD214. I think that's what that thing's called. Yeah, it wasn't a problem. The smaller nut plates, you just can't do it because the dimple die will ride up on the radius of the nut plate and completely deform the thing. So that wasn't a problem. I actually, since I saw that it would fit, I went ahead and dimpled one end of each of those. And the reason it's only one end is because the other side of that nut plate, the other leg of it, is actually held on. It's attached to not only the spar but also that thick mounting bracket with a long. I think it's an AN470. I'll look at it again. No, it's not an AN470. It's also a flush. So you need to find out. You need to locate those holes, drill them accurately, so the nut plate ultimately fits on when you do it. And yeah, there's a little bit of puzzling about it because this is, I think, in the intro I talked about the order of operations here. You need to have the rivet set for one half of that equation. So the nut plate that is, or rather, the leg of the nut plate that is mounting to only the web of the rib, that needs to be set before you mount the plate. Because if you mount the plate, you will not be able to set that rivet. It's too tight, too close to it. And it feels a little precarious riveting only one half of the nut plate and then moving on to the work and coming back to it. But as I'm thinking about it, as I talk about it right now, it shouldn't be that big of a deal. Get it all marked up, lined up on the rib all by itself. Go ahead and drill the holes in the rib, and that will then can use that as a guide to drill through the bracket. And then when it comes time to rivet only one side of it, just cleco the other side in place. Yeah, it'll be fine. But again, if I had tried to do that in a hurry, I probably would have winged it or wung it, as it were, and wouldn't have been as happy with it. So that will be some work for the next build session. And I'm glad we had this little talk. Now that I've worked it out in my head how that will ultimately come together, yeah, that's fine. Anyway, so the whole time that I've been talking, what you've been watching me doing is more of the match drilling. And the match drilling I'm doing right here is for that bracket that runs along the rib that I was just talking about. You probably don't need, I've already moved on from it, you probably don't need to have that whole assembly together, like the rib, the spar, the other bracket. But I did want to, and it would be less cumbersome to match drill the bracket to the rib, but I thought it doesn't make it that much more difficult, and I want things to be match drilled when they're as close to their natural state or their final state as can be. So the last thing that I'm doing here is just upsizing the that last hole to a 1/4 inch. And yeah, everything went pretty well. So hopefully I'll see you guys again tomorrow with another one. Thanks for being here.